Welcome to Stripe Dialogues. Today we are going to discuss the Russia-Ukraine war, emerging trends, where the war is heading, what about the Prigozhin mystery. A lot of discussion has already taken place on the YouTube in various channels. We will try to further dig into these aspects. And to discuss this, we have with us Major General P.S. Behel, who is watching the Ukraine war very closely right from the time it began. And so therefore he's an encyclopedia as far as the Russia-Ukraine war is concerned. Welcome to the show, General Behel.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. It's good to be back on Strive and discuss, I think, the most important times which the world is going through. And
Absolutely.
the outcome of this war uh, has already started to shape the geopolitical environment
World.
of the world, and how it
Absolutely.
eventually pans out is
Correct.
I think most of us are anxiously waiting to see as to which direction this entire thing is going to
Correct.
shape the world.
Correct.
And while the war today, as of today, if you just look at the war, the counteroffensive of the Ukrainian uh, is kind of making a little progress, albeit slowly. But at the
Mm.
same time, we do see some bit of progress which is taking place towards the south and also a little to the east. How far will it go? How long can this sustain is a question that cannot be answered right now. Of course, the West believes that with all the wherewithal that they are providing, and which they will soon provide again, uh, will ensure a sort of a victory for Ukraine. That is, reach the line of Crimea and kind of try and liberate Crimea, and that seems to be the aim. How far will they succeed? Uh, while I have my doubts, but at the same time, it's good to remain optimistic from their side, from the Ukrainian side. As far as Russia is concerned, they've launched their counter to a counter offensive onto the north towards Kupiansk, and it's heading towards Kupiansk. Let's see as to where it goes.
Yeah.
Now,
So
sorry.
before we go further, let me just give the facts about what is happening till now. Some people say that Russia-Ukraine war has entered a decisive phase, but we must also realize that the winters are going to come in very soon. So at the time of winters, it becomes more of a slugfest, more of an attritional war. And in attritional war, ये देखा गया है कि Russia has always had the upper hand, basically because of the quantum of uh, uh, munitions which the Russians have as compared to the Ukrainians. अभी हाल ही में आपने देखा होगा प्रिगोजिन का एक इंसिडेंट हुआ जिसमें उसकी डेथ हो गई. उसके पीछे भी काफी मिस्ट्री है. A lot of mystery is there behind Prigozhin's death. Then Europe seems to be losing hope. Some indications to that effect are there in the environment. F-16s were supposed to be promised to be given, but now they have been shifted to next year, January or February. They will be first trained and then given, and those two, the numbers are very limited. How much will they be able to stand the mighty air force of the Russians till the time the Western countries themselves intervene? That's also a big question. Essentially, we also have seen that in the war till now, people say, I mean, these are estimates. Some people may say that it may be exaggerated, but quoting few figures, like the casualties are around 400,000 killed and wounded are around 20,000, that is 2 million people. 190 attacks this year have taken place of drones in Russia and Crimea combined, which you can see on the small little map which is there next to the place where it is written. Although red dots are the drone attacks, so drones are playing a very great role in this war on both sides. Even the Russians are causing a similar damage on the other side as far as Ukraine is concerned. Six attacks took place just 2 days back, which included Moscow also, and which included a air base, which I'm sure you will be covering in detail. Although the Russians they responded massively by launching 25 missiles, but people say that most of it were neutralized by the Ukrainian forces. There are, you said that there is a little bit of ingress which has taken place in the Zaporizhia region, where they have managed to create a breach in the first line of defenses. So this is an overall, the situation which is there as far as the war is concerned. So let's see, what are your opening comments as far as where is the war heading? Uh, are we coming to an end, or are we seeing a strategic pause till the time these both sides recoup, gather strength, and then, especially in the light of the recent activities, slow down in the war? Yeah.
So, as while you rightly mentioned, sir, that there is a kind of a feeling that there is a pause.
Mm.
Now, I just want to say that as of today, the as far as Ukrainians are concerned, they're not talking about a pause. They're talking about capturing as much as territory as they can in the current times, because the moment the rain set in and thereafter winter sets in, there is going to be a lot of problem, and obviously the operations will not carry on the way they should be in ideal conditions. So the conditions are going to be bad. As far as the Russians are concerned, we have seen, while they have progressed their operations towards Kopiansk, the speed is not much.
Okay.
But the opposition is also limited, but at the same time, they don't seem to have put in all their forces towards that direction. Now, we all know it is going to take a pause in the winters. Now, who's going to be at an advantage during winters is going to be the Russians at an advantage, because they are going to use long range weapons, they are going to use missiles, they are going to use uh, the drones, whatever they have. And then you'll have counter drone activity by the Ukrainians. Uh, Earlier, at the beginning of the war, the ratio of drones which the Ukrainians have with the Ukrainians and the Russians was 3:1. So
Okay.
Ukraine was leading. So that is the kind of equation they had. But as the war has progressed, the ratio is now 1:1. So
Hmm.
on both sides, in equal usage of drones is taking place. Now, why? Yes, these are the areas that we've seen. Now, this is something very interesting, because you see 190 odd drone attacks inside Russian territory. On one hand, the West is saying that the war should not be carried into Russian territory. Uh, to the extent the United States has said we are not in favor of carrying the war into Russian territory. The Germans have said whatever equipment we give you, that should not be used against Russia in Russian territory. So all this kind of a controversy exists. But as far as Ukraine is concerned, Ukraine says we are at war with Russia, and if Russia can attack our capital and our territory, so can be. So there is a little conflict in ideology as far as the West and the Ukrainians are concerned. So this is a little issue which exists. So the drone warfare will continue, the RT duels will continue, the air superiority which the Russian has, Russia will continue to bomb cities and destroy infrastructure. The Ukrainians are very worried, and already President Zelensky has ordered a diktat that we need to protect all our energy related infrastructure. So there was a meeting last week in which he stated that. So there is a huge amount of worry as far as energy infrastructure is concerned, and how the winters uh, are going to be coped with.
Okay.
Now, if we find that the winters are severe, then there is going to be a big amount of trouble for the Ukrainians as also for Europe, because Europe is already feeling the heat. As far as
Hmm.
Europe is concerned, we know that they are at an all-time low at the moment on all spheres, be it economically, be it politically. We see, and as far as the support which is being provided by the EU and by NATO to Ukraine, that's also dwindling. If you see the statements being made that Zelensky needs to be a little more grateful, etc., this is all flowing out of the fact that they need to slow down this operation. What is coming out in United States also is that they are also throwing out feelers in the media saying that this counteroffensive is going nowhere, and
Mm-hmm.
and despite all our wherewithal that we have provided, it is not yielding that kind of results. So the
Although
US is
although the propaganda machine of BBC says that Zelensky needs to be congratulated as the war counteroffensive is now going ahead well. So in between you
yes,
will hear voices also. I think putting Zelensky on the gum tree so that he continues to
yes.
get his country into problems. Yeah, sorry.
So very very true, sir. It is only the BBC which
Yeah,
continues to support. Now,
correct.
as they say, sir, and as you read, between the lines, in this entire war, MI6 has been more active than the CIA.
Mm-hmm. Oh, is it?
Yes. So
Okay.
the whole
Uh,
thing, because if you
for the
recollect the
For the viewers, I would like to just inform them that MI6 is the secret agency of UK, like we have CIA of America, and KGB is that of Russia. All these guys are playing a lot of role here, which I'm sure I'll be asking General Behel a little more about them. Yeah, go ahead.
so we are talking about the MI6. If you recollect in the very beginning, uh,
Mm-hmm.
this war wouldn't have taken place had it not been for Boris Johnson
Yes,
going in.
correct,
So
correct.
it is quite a bit of UK inspired, initiated, and वो कहते हैं ना भड़काना. तो
Tell me, tell me what could have been the intention of UK doing this? Because see, uh, what did UK achieve by getting? I mean, was it working on behest of the Americans, or it was purely a unilateral decision of the UK to go ahead and support?
so now again, so let's go back. We
Mhm.
know that Brexit happened. UK was
Mhm.
in the doldrums.
Okay.
The political situation which existed, and how the present incumbent has come about. So
Mm.
when you look at UK was losing relevance.
Okay.
It was losing relevance. So was the United States losing relevance as far as the long term this thing. It was losing relevance in Europe. So it is UK inspired,
Mm-hmm.
supported by the United States.
Mm-hmm.
Thereafter, NATO
Picked
has
up.
been put. NATO has picked it up. NATO has been used,
Mm.
and Ukraine has been led up a gumtree.
Yes.
And this is precise, if I may just put it in simplistic terms.
Yeah.
एंड बलि का बकरा ये जो इन्होंने यूक्रेन को बनाया है इन मीटिंग अप विद देयर एम्बिशंस. So that is how it is.
Okay. I
And
have a. You want to say add something more, or I
नहीं
wanted
नहीं
to.
आप प्लीज
I,
प्लीज.
I wanted to add a question here. I'm playing the devil's advocate. The Russian president Putin is also, searching around. He is negotiating with North Korea for more weapons, equipment, ammunition to support the war. He is paying a visit to China after the G20 summit. Immediately after the G20 summit is over, he is going to China. In any case, Xi Jinping and Putin both are not attending the G20. So as far as they are concerned, they are focusing on the war. Reasons may be different for both the countries. Do you think Russia is also running out of options as far as international support and even war sustenance support is concerned? Your views on this?
So war is always taxing on anybody's economy,
Yeah.
any country's economy. Now where you have economic, after all it's taxing. Second is the human element. A lot of lives are being lost while they're not
Mhm.
being reported, and we are not getting the exact figures. The ratio
Yeah.
may be 1:Y, 1:6, or whatever you may call it. Some say it's
Mhm.
1:8. But
Oh.
fact of the matter is that uh, lives are being lost. A lot of ammunition, etc., equipment has been already destroyed in the initial phases. So he has kind of partially already achieved his aims as far as the Donbas region is concerned. Now we have
Mhm.
to always keep it in mind. They never call it a war. They have always stated it's a special military operation.
Yes.
Now, just to counter your statement saying that maybe he's looking at this thing, he has also made a statement that Ukraine has not yet seen what Russia will do in the future. This,
Okay.
this, the words to that effect, I have that written down. But he has
Mhm.
made a statement. अभी तो हमने कुछ किया ही नहीं है.
Mhm, mhm, mhm.
And I kind of agree with it. Now I will
Okay.
try and I will just try and explain this to you.
Mhm,
सर अगर अगर वो चाहे आज तो वो
mhm.
अपनी पूरी फौज लगा के आगे बढ़ सकता है
Correct.
कुपियांस्क एंड बियॉन्ड जा नहीं रहा वो
Correct. Mm.
ना वो क्यों नहीं जा रहा है वी हैव टू ऑलवेज सी दैट Mr. Putin is looking at this Ukraine special military operation stroke war as an incident, as a military operation. His major enemy is the United States and NATO.
Okay.
He cannot afford at this particular stage to commit all his entire troops into Ukraine and then suffer more losses. So he's playing it safe.
So
He
basically,
he
he's kind of preparing for a likely enlargement of the war.
correct.
Should anything incorrect happen, or should something happen accidentally, you would have seen Second World War also started accidentally, and then the war
Bilkul.
suddenly got out of hand. So possibly, but what about
That's
his
right.
international options? That should be a cause of worry for him.
Sir, internationally, you see, President Putin knows he is not isolated. Now, if we think he's isolated, he's only isolated as far as uh, Europe is concerned. Africa is with him. He is more focused. Is this thing on Africa? He's looking at dominance. Now, the very fact that he is wanting to get a better foothold into Africa is to prove a point that Russia is not out of the entire geopolitical game.
Mm-hmm.
They are still relevant as far
Okay.
as going to China is concerned, or talking to North Korea is concerned, and Iran for that matter. So we all know that this anti-Americanism or anti-Westernism, which has taken place, this bloc is building up, and these are people who are trying to call out together and saying like, look, the United States hegemony is not going to go anywhere. Uh, don't take it lightly. We are a reasonably powerful bloc, and that is what it is. And these are the kind of statements that are coming out of this.
So coming on to the main question of today's discussion, where do you see the war now heading in the next 2-3 months or 3-4 months?
So right now, as I see it, it's a slowdown. The counteroffensive is not going to go anywhere. They will try
Mm-hmm.
and push as far as deep as they can. They are not going to go anywhere near Tokmak also. I mean, if you look at I will just explain this to you
On
over
the
the
map?
slides. Hanji.
Yeah. Okay. I'll just get it. I'll just get it for
Hanji.
you.
Yeah, this map, we just, yes, if you see, this is the kind of progress the main counteroffensive has made. And while this wedge has been created between the first year of defenses, uh,
Mm-hmm.
the major defenses are down below, sir. They're much down south. Now,
Okay.
this is just to give you the density of uh, defenses which are already existing. Now,
Mm-hmm.
when we say at times that these are weakly held, uh, well, when the time comes, they'll be filled up,
Okay.
depending up depending
Yeah,
upon
absolutely.
how the progress
That's
is.
that's part of a normal defensive battle that
Normal, normal, yeah,
you
the
move the
normal, sir.
you move the reserves given the level of surveillance, etc., which is available now. They'll be
Yes,
strengthened. Those areas will be
that's
strengthened. Yeah.
so we just wanting to see now. This is where Tokmak is.
Okay.
Now, if you have to come from, if I just take the distance between this Raboshne and coming down to Tokmak, this is about 65 kilometers, sir.
Mm-hmm.
60 odd kilometers. And
Okay.
then if you look at Melitopol and add another 40, we're looking at about 100 kilometers distance, which
Okay.
Ukraine has to really cover to make a difference. Now you look at, if you just go back and you see the defenses around Tokmak, the ring kind of defense which is there, because
Yeah.
the Russians do understand that it is extremely critical.
So it
Now,
will be
with
Bakhmut. It will be another Bakhmut if they come up to that place.
yes, and Bakhmut plus the amount of time required in the amount of troops required. They've already
Yeah.
lost 40,000 troops here just to capture this one village.
Yeah.
Now, 40,000 casualties in 3 months is
Pretty
not
heavy.
less.
Pretty
Very
heavy.
heavy casualties. So we see this war at the moment in the next couple of months not progressing much.
And
Similarly,
we also need to realize that both sides are struggling for mobilization, especially the Ukrainians. I think most of their people are not available for recruitment only. They're having recruitment scandals, etc., etc.
absolutely, sir. Uh, about 160,000 able-bodied men.
Mm-hmm.
If I remember the figure, it is 168,400 something. Uh, able-bodied men have escaped mobilization. Now,
Okay.
if this is the kind of despair amongst the local public, हमने fight नहीं करना, हमें लड़ाई नहीं करनी है, हमें आगे नहीं जाना है.
Mm-hmm.
You will be surprised. Recently, they have conscripted one 71-year-old chap
Okay.
to go and fight. They are even looking at people who are disabled. They
Mm-hmm.
said, "ठीक है, कोई बात नहीं, you go and fight." So this is, uh, it is from that. There's a phrase which is going on. We don't. The Ukrainians saying we don't need iron now. We need meat.
Yes.
And
Although although the BBC shows photograph of young woman getting trained by Azov fighters, just to impress the. This is called
yes,
information warfare, which is going on.
information warfare is at its best here, sir. And interestingly, the Telegram channels are the best channels to watch and
Hmm.
see. Now, again, if you see the statements of the United States saying that this is the cheapest war that we are fighting. I mean, to make a statement, Secretary of Defense making a statement that look, we're not losing lives. Uh, this is a very cheap war,
Hmm.
as if Ukrainian lives are very cheap. So their mobilization part of it, the Ukrainians today are not available to fight.
Okay.
There is one 28th brigade, if I have the number right. The 28 in one of the brigades, 28 is a number that consists of all foreign fighters,
Mercenaries.
mercenaries. So अभी नौबत ये आ गई कि आदमी इनके पास है नहीं. इनको आप जितनी मर्जी मशीनरी दे दीजिए, आपने जितना भी अभी
And
M1 A1 Abrams are coming
correct.
this month. They are hoping to get about 10 M1 A1s, and there's a lot of this thing कि उसके साथ what will they be able to achieve with this just 10, because the
10 का
balance.
10 का
हाँ सर.
मतलब है कि एक एक स्क्वाड्रन वर्थ, एक खाली एक कंपनी जो होता है आर्मर्ड में स्क्वाड्रन बोलते हैं, उतने टैंक्स आ रहे हैं. उतने टैंकों से क्या करेंगे ये? आई मीन दैट इज द मैसेज व्हिच ही इज ट्राइंग टू गिव.
टोटल इनके पास आने हैं सर 41. दैट इज वन रेजिमेंट, वन
एक
बटालियन.
रेजिमेंट एक
हाँ,
रेजिमेंट आ जाएगी.
एक रेजिमेंट, ये बटालियन बोलते हैं अमेरिकन. तो एक
हम्म.
बटालियन वर्थ ने आना है. 10 जो है इसी महीने आ रहे हैं.
ओके.
एंड अगेन लॉट ऑफ कंट्रोवर्सी, लॉट ऑफ डिस्कशन कि वो M1 उनका लॉजिस्टिक्स कैसे होगा. एक बड़ा इंटरेस्टिंग फैक्ट सामने आया है कि जो M1 A1 एब्राम्स है वो एविएशन फ्यूल यूज करता है.
ओ गॉड, ओ गॉड.
I mean, it is fueled by not by diesel but by aviation fuel. So this is
Oh,
something which I found very interesting. How
okay.
are they going to? It has to have an entire separate logistics chain.
Correct.
So they're going to face a lot of difficulties. Notwithstanding, uh, uh, आदमी नहीं है इनके पास, इक्विपमेंट आप इनको जितना मर्जी दे दीजिए. Russia on the other hand is also thinking of mobilization, but when it mobilizes or when it orders the mobilization, they will have adequate manpower, and in any case उनके पास अभी भी reserves बहुत है. ये तो है. So ये देखते हैं सर, ये last map है to see that this is the kind of distance they have to go if Crimea has to be kind of taken back. तो ये होने वाला नहीं है.
So, mota mota, what you are trying to say is that it is a task which is currently beyond the capability, much beyond the capability of यूक्रेन ऑन इट्स ओन. अपने आप
Correct.
वो किसी भी तरह से इसको नहीं कर सकता है, डिस्पाइट द फैक्ट कि उसके पास 10-12 ब्रिगेड हैं इस समय, जो कि काउंटर ऑफेंसिव के लिए उसने रिजर्व में रखी हुई हैं, बट उनकी रीच उतनी ही है. नो एयर फोर्स, नो एयर पावर इज देयर. जब तक F-16 आएंगे, वो उनकी अब जनवरी में आने की बात हो रही है. तो इस समय एक्चुअली यूक्रेन इज ऑन अ बैक फुट, इज व्हाट यू आर ट्राइंग टू से. वेल, वी मूव फर्दर फ्रॉम देयर, एंड since we had this one of the important aspects of today's discussion was ये प्रिगोजिन मिस्ट्री क्या साइड शो थी. हमने बहुत सारे लोगों ने अलग अलग इसके असेसमेंट निकाले कि इट वाज रशिया इंजीनियर्ड और इट वाज CIA इंजीनियर्ड और पुतिन हैड अ टैसिट सपोर्ट. अल्टीमेटली पीपल आर सेइंग कि पुतिन तो वो ऐसा आदमी है जो कि सब कुछ सह सकता है, बिट्रेयल यानी धोखा नहीं सह सकता. So what is the can you uncover the mystery of Prigozhin just for the benefit of our audience?
Sir, ये Prigozhin, I mean, he died now. He's 62 born.
Yes.
He lived his life. He was a criminal. He was in jail. जब इसकी शुरुआत हुई बचपन में, इसने 9 साल अपने जेल में काटे हैं शुरुआत. सो एज अ क्रिमिनल. फिर उसके बाद इसने एक हॉट डॉग का स्टैंड लगाया अपने पेरेंट्स के साथ मिलके. वो चल पड़ा. वो जब चला तो फिर उन्होंने they opened restaurant. Then he graduated into owning casinos. Then he opened a very fancy restaurant, and that fancy restaurant was so fancy in St. Petersburg that all these diplomats and they started coming to that, and that is where he came in touch with that. It is in this restaurant which was on the sea. It was a unique kind of a restaurant that he had started, and that is where he came in touch with Mr. Putin. And thereafter their friendship grew, and फिर उसको contracts मिलने शुरू हो गए और ये बड़ा आदमी बन गया. Notwithstanding, he was never a military man. अगर आपने उसको बैटल फटीग्स में देखा है, यूनिफॉर्म में देखा है, तो वो खाली यूक्रेन दिखावा है. यूक्रेन वॉर में he has been more of a spokesman in this war, and portrayed himself as the leader, which he was. But जो Wagner बोलते हैं, जिसको Wagner itself was started by that gentleman called Utkin, who also has died.
Okay.
Dmitry Utkin was the person who started this Wagner group, and he was known, his code name was Wagner.
Okay.
तो वो उसके नाम से ये Wagner group चल पड़ा. And incidentally, he was a brigade commander on the special forces, Spetsnaz ka. Okay. So what I'm trying to say is that Prigozhin was more of a political sidekick who was made to come forth and act on behalf of the Russian army. Now, wherever Russia wanted to interfere and yet not be held accountable, that is where Wagner was being used. So that is the employment strategy for Wagner of the Russian armed forces. Now, how he disappeared and why he disappeared. The point is, everybody wanted him gone, sir. America wanted him gone. Europeans wanted him gone क्योंकि वो यूरोप में जा.
Any reason why America wanted him gone?
Because he was the chief of Wagner, and Wagner forces को disrupt करना है. Okay. And he was making loose statements in any case, and he was able to actually in Bakhmut and all, he was able to give these, push as far as the Wagner forces are concerned, and he's done a great job in Bakhmut on behalf of the Russian armed forces. So
Okay.
he was utilized. So America was not in favor. Second, the Europeans want him out because Africa में उसने काफी गदर किया, and towards the end he was also seen in Africa, and he was looking at freeing Africa. He wanted a freer Africa, and the Europeans need to be kicked out. So
So now.
वैगनर की प्रेजेंस जो है 10 कंट्रीज में है.
Mhm.
So in Africa is in about 6 to 7 countries.
Okay.
So the Europeans wanted him out. Mr. Putin also wanted him out because he had become a little too big for his boots. The neighboring countries also wanted him out. Polish also, they wanted him out. So अगर आप मेरे से पूछें कि ये किसने किया, and we all now come to the theory कि भाई this attempt is an inside attempt because apparently a bomb was planted in the aircraft. Initially एक theory आई थी कि some missile may have shot him down, but
Yes.
we have these videos. We never saw any missile being fired. आजकल तो जो भी एयरक्राफ्ट फ्लाई करता है उसके दुनिया वीडियो लेती है, एंड अगर कुछ वैसा होता तो पता चलता. So what it is assumed that it was a bomb which is planted. Now Belarus की बात आती है. Yes, I was also a proponent of the ruse theory, saying that it was a motive. It was an well engineered move on the part of the Russian armed forces to move the Wagner forces into Belarus. And I still believe in that, because Wagner forces जैसे ही वहाँ स्टेशन हुए.
I have a counter theory. Just think over it. Do you think Lukashenko is going out of favor from Putin because of this incident? Was Lukashenko also involved in this Prigozhin rebellion in some form? How easily he just agreed to Lukashenko's proposal to lay down the arms and then surrender? I mean,
That
just a conspiracy theory. I'm trying to get at.
अंडरस्टूड सर. इसी बेसिस पे मैं बोलता हूँ, आप जो बोल रहे हैं इसी बेसिस पे मैं ये कहता हूँ कि ये इंजीनियर था.
ओके.
अगर ये इंजीनियर नहीं होता, अगर ये कॉमन अंडरस्टैंडिंग नहीं होती, तो ये मूवमेंट इतनी आसानी से हो ना पाती.
Okay.
So that is why I say that all three parties, that is the Wagner, the Belarusian and the Russians president, they had an agreement कि यार इनको ठीक है, you take them to Belarus and now pose a threat in being in Belarus on behalf of Russia.
Okay.
And the effect of it we have seen. Poland has already deployed about 10,000 troops there. So effect तो हुआ है. Now with him gone, उसको आगे ये क्या होगा, who will take over? There are two people who are coming up for the race for leading this Wagner group. I have their names as to who are the people who are likely to take over. Now, one is a general called Andrei Avernov. Now, this gentleman has been seen of late in Africa.
Okay.
Meeting all the heads of, he was in Mali yesterday, and he has met with the president and the the generals who are there, not the president but the generals who are there, and he has been visiting these countries. So it is felt that the Wagner forces which are there in Africa will be controlled by this general. Then another name which is coming up is that of a gentleman called Anton Yelizarov. Anton Yelizarov. Now he is one person who has been a good loyalist of the Wagner forces, and who kind of is an accepted figure within the Wagner forces. He was involved in Libya, he was involved in Syria, he's fought in Mali, he was there in Mali, he has fought here in Ukraine, and is kind of accepted. So ये दो नाम आ रहे हैं. अभी इनकी options we all know. So We have said, we have read about President saying that they owe their oath of allegiance to Russia, that they need to take that. So let us see whether there will be three kind of Wagner forces: one which are in Belarus, who may not take the oath;
Okay.
the Wagner forces in Africa, which constitute of people not necessarily Russians, but also of the locals who have been recruited, and they may be placed under this general. And obviously, they will have to owe their allegiance to Russia, because the generals, there will be a general who will be put in charge. And then you will have the Wagner forces, which are in Russia stroke Ukraine, who would have owed their allegiance to Russia, because if they have to be part of the Russian armed forces, they have to owe their allegiance. So it
Mhm.
gets divided into three: the
Okay.
Belarusians, who may not, who may still be left out to be rogues,
Mhm.
bandits.
What
तो अगर
advantage
वो,
does that? What
yes,
advantage does that give? I mean,
major,
leaving a fort with a rogue, Belarus may get into a shit.
sir, major advantage for the Russians. A, if they carry out any operations against, something has to be carried out within Poland, and when Poland starts acting a little aggressive,
Deniability.
Hanji, deniability, pure deniability. That, look, I've got nothing to do with it.
Okay.
So that is the advantage that he's trying to kind of maintain. So a little bit of ambiguity, little bit of deniability is what it happens. So we shall have to watch, sir, for the next couple of days, weeks, months, maybe, to see
How,
as
how
to
much
how it shapes.
How much time do you think the Wagner group will take to organize itself? Could that also be one of the reasons why the Russians are not really going full-fledged into the offensive? Because its major force is currently in some kind of a turmoil. I'm talking of the mercenary force, which is in some kind of a turmoil. After all, they can't. I mean, they were much better than the Chechens, Chechen fighters, who are the other group which
Yes.
Russians. सो ये भी क्या एक रीज़न हो सकता है कि वो अब वैगनर ग्रुप क्योंकि इस समय लीडरलेस है, उसको कितना टाइम लगेगा? कब तक वो ऑर्गेनाइज़ करेंगे? लीडरशिप कहाँ से आएगी? जो आपने बताया 2 आदमी तो तैयार आई मीन लग रहे हैं कि दे माइट बिकम द लीडर, बट दे विल टेक सम टाइम टू गेट होल्ड ऑफ दीज़ फोर्सेस, गेट देम अंडर कंट्रोल। तो ये कितना एक समय लग सकता है आपके हिसाब से?
सर, एक तो हमें ये देखना है कि कितनी फौज है, वैगनर
हुँ।
के हैं कितने आदमी हैं। इफ यू आर लुकिंग
25-26
एट,
हज़ार की बात 25-26 हज़ार की बात होती थी रशिया में, तो
हाँ
अब
जी,
लगा लीजिए करीब 20,000 तो होंगे ही होंगे इस समय भी।
हाँ, so it's about 20,000, which we're looking at 10,000 in Belarus and 10,000 in Russia. And
या
10,000 is what, I mean, it's not much of a strength,
हाँ, 2
if you really.
2 2 ब्रिगेड के करीब हैं।
हाँ, तो इनका इतना इफेक्ट नहीं होना चाहिए ऑन द ओवरऑल डायनेमिक्स ऑफ द कॉन्फ्लिक्ट,
ओके।
while having an effect, but overall इतना वो होगा नहीं.
हुँ, हुँ।
And maybe another, I think, about a month or so, they should get organized with a new
ओके,
leader.
ओके।
हाँ जी.
So, having seen the mystery of Prigozhin, which looks like that it was actually Putin who ultimately pushed him to this stage because he was getting too big for his boots. I think वो एक सबसे सही जो word है.
Correct.
Prigozhin was getting too big for his boots, and he had to be replaced. So that is why the action which took place on recently against Prigozhin can be justified. Uh, how much of a role is CIA now playing in Russia, and on the reverse KGB, because I am looking more and more on Ukraine as Koreaization. Number of experts have also talked about it. General Raj Shukla spoke about it that Ukraine may go the Korea way, and if that happens, then I hope it is not going to become La Berlin, East with Kyiv getting divided into two, with East Ukraine and West Ukraine as two independent countries, and then going along a Cold War 2.0 starting. How do you look at this scenario?
This is the most plausible scenarios, and
Okay.
this is one scenario which the Americans are pushing for.
Mhm.
the West is pushing forth, because they know as far as retaking Crimea and retaking all this is out of reach as far as uh, the Ukrainians are concerned. They can't do it on their own.
And
And you
also we could tell the audience that Putin is conducting elections in Donbass.
correct. Now, Putin is conducting elections in Donbass. If you see pictures of Mariupol,
Hmm.
that city which was totally destroyed,
Hmm.
and every second, third day we get photographs of Mariupol being totally renovated. So
Okay.
uh, within we can go to the first map. So usme aa jaye. I'll just
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, you can
My
general area.
हाँ एक मिनट है कहीं पे ये मेलिटोपोल है इधर नीचे मारियोपोल भी है
Okay.
which is where this
Yeah, the
road is.
southeastern area, southern area of Ukraine, basically.
Correct. So we keep getting photographs as to how much of good work, restoration work is being carried out in these towns.
Hmm.
Now, this is to win over all the people of Donbass.
Okay.
This is a very deliberate attempt. A lot of money is being spent for restoration purposes and getting normal life going.
Hmm.
And so that is how the elections part of it come in.
Okay.
Now, interestingly, you would have heard that Zelensky is being asked to carry out elections in Ukraine because elections are due in 24
That's
in
right.
Ukraine also.
Yes.
Interestingly, all over the world, the elections are happening in
20,
2024.
24 is an election year, is what people are.
Election year.
2024 is going to be an
It's going
election year.
to, yes, it's going to be
We
very pivotal to all the geopolitical scenarios
Yeah,
here.
and we cannot
And
predict
now,
anything of geopolitics till that happens.
absolutely, who comes to power in the United States is the key to where
Yes.
this entire thing is led to. But what I was coming to is Zelensky is also being forced by EU and by the United States to hold elections.
Hmm.
Now he is also acting like a dada. He says, if you want me to hold elections, मुझे $5 billion दे दो, मैं election कर दूंगा. I mean, that is extremely ridiculous, but that is what his demand is. He says, I need $5 billion for holding elections. Now, why is the United States forcing it? Why is the EU interested in holding elections? Say that, look, if you have to portray to the world that you are a very democratic leader and there is democracy existing in Ukraine, then these elections must be held. Now, what he said, the advisor, the US has demanded holding elections too. And it says it will lead to the Korean scenario implementation.
Wow. Wow.
This is a statement that we want
Okay.
elections to be held so that the Korean scenario is implemented and the war is brought to an end. Now, इसमें होगा क्या? आपने मेरे से पूछा केजीबी क्या कर रही है और सीआईए क्या कर रही है.
हाँ जी.
सीआईए जेलेंस्की को आउट करना इतना आसान नहीं है. Either
Hmm.
somebody will assassinate him and that the blame will be put on the Russians, right?
Okay.
वो होने वाला नहीं है. So how do you take Zelensky out? By making sure that he loses the elections.
Okay.
And another puppet is put who agrees to the end of the war. Zelensky will be told to carry on and relax in his new villa, which he has bought in Egypt for 5 million,
Yeah. Yeah, that's
5
right.
million dollars. So he will be told to carry on. So this is a very plausible scenario wherein bring in a new person after holding democratic kind of elections, and he says, okay, he lost power, and that is the role which the CIA would be playing. So that
So,
is
so I think, but I was having in mind that, if you remember Cold War 1.0, when Berlin Wall was considered as some kind of a, barrier between the CIA and KGB. You would find the operators of CIA going jumping across
doing
on
that
this
sort of
side,
thing.
and the KGB operators jumping across the other side. The network was spread to mainland America of KGB.
Absolutely,
Similarly,
absolutely.
the CIA network was uh, in the entire USSR conglomerate, which which was there, the big USSR. Now, of course, it's only Russia which is left out of the USSR. So that kind of a scenario will again lead us to this Cold War, and that is something which we should try to avoid. Because if you are looking at future, I would prefer a multipolar world than a bipolar world, something like that. बिकॉज अगर आपके पास विल नहीं है ना पावर यूज करने की, आपको कोई सुपर पावर नहीं बोलेगा. चाइना में भी है इकोनॉमिक पावर, जब तक वो अपना हथियार नहीं यूज करेगा, nobody will consider China as a superpower. It is an
Very true, sir.
economic power, not having the will to use the military power.
As of now, as of now,
As of
and
now, when they
and
use it,
in the future also not really uh,
unlikely, because see,
unlikely.
besides using the military power, you must also be at least victorious or seem to get your notion of victory out, even if you're not victorious. you know take for example, अमेरिका को बोलते हैं कि अफगानिस्तान में वो हार गया, राइट? मैं बोलता हूँ उसने अफगानिस्तान में जो जो एम्स चाहिए थे वो अचीव कर लिए. उसने क्या एम बोला था अफगानिस्तान में? कि मैं उस्मा बिन लादेन को मारूंगा, ठोक दिया उसने. अलकायदा को खत्म कर दूंगा, अलकायदा इज वर्चुअली फिनिश्ड. Of course,
Absolutely.
ISIS has come up, but I'm looking at purely from aims and objectives. अल जवाहिरी ने दोबारा खड़ा करने की कोशिश की अलकायदा को. He killed Billy Al Zawahiri also. AQ is now virtually
Finished.
reduced
Yes.
to a handful of 300, 400 people. So he has achieved his political aim, or the initial military objective of getting Afghanistan to be free of terror world, plus terrorist influence, plus Taliban. He has taken something in guarantee that you will not look at anything outside from your land as far as terrorism is concerned. So he's secured his own country, which is he's not allowed any war other than 2011 to happen on his 9/11 to happen on his state. So overall, America is shown that it has the will and the capacity to use military power. You have to look at the notion of victory of a person. From our perspective, he may have lost, but from his perspective, he may have possibly won. Similarly, you take the Russians, Putin has fought war in every tenure of his. Do you know that?
वो छोड़ता नहीं है. Every tenor he has to do achieve something. He
Achieve
has to show
something.
that he is able to achieve.
Correct. So, before final word, before we go in for the audience question, there are 3, 4 of them.
So,
Europe,
so
your forecast या आपका जो Nostradamus view on Europe, what is happening to Europe now in view of this big, bloody, uncertain, uncoherent
now,
war?
Europe, sir. Now I will just quickly just give you a few pointers. Europe economically, we know what is happening.
Yeah.
Two, energy resources have dwindled to are they're in deep shit. I'm sorry to use the word, but hasn't it just come out that they're buying LNG, liquefied natural gas from
Back from
Russia? So
absolutely.
there is a shift. There is a shift towards Russia once again. The the Ukraine war not having gone anywhere, there is a shift in the mindset of the people that look, it was nice to have peace with Russia, and we were much better off. So there is a notion which is already there. So it is called a terminology when use as a Putin understanders.
Okay.
Quote unquote, it's a terminology being used. Putin understanders. The
Right.
number of Putin understanders has increased in Europe.
Okay.
So they have started understanding as to why this war took place and why was it required. Anyway,
Okay.
now,
Okay.
the EU's economic growth, sir, today is less than 3%.
Okay.
The countries which have been hit very badly are Poland, Hungary, Italy, and Germany. These are the 4 countries which are very badly affected.
Yeah.
The industrial complex all across, I'm not talking about military alone, all across, the energy bills are rising, the cost of production is increasing. They are unable to some companies have already started closing down. So that is the near recession, at least in Germany, is taking place. So when you have that, what the companies have tried to do is they've tried to absorb the cost and reduce their profits. But when they do that, where how long will they last? Now,
Mhm.
you see, earlier from Europe, there were a lot of exports taking place to Ukraine. There were exports taking place to Russia. There were exports taking place to Belarus.
Okay.
वो तो बंद हो गए. So
बिल्कुल.
So a segment, a 30 to 40% reduction of exports towards the east, that is gone. So the Europe has suffered that also. Now, because of that, the European banks are under pressure. There's a tremendous amount of pressure on the European banks. So financially and their economics, they are finished. Militarily, now they're in a fix. Should we give away all our weaponry? Our whatever weapons that we have, arms and ammunition to for the fight in Ukraine, or to conserve for in case we require it. I mean, every country is looking at themselves first. Then comes the grain part of it, the food supplies. We know of these 5 countries which have said that look, we are not going to allow the import of Ukrainian grain. So there are dissensions taking place within Europe. They have started placing their country first. Earlier, it
Mhm.
was, okay, fine, we
Very
are there with Ukraine. But seeing the attitude of Ukraine, the demands that have been made, the amount of money which has been given to them, uh, they're all retracting now. There is a slowdown, whether economics, whether physical support, mental support, backing. I think that is all lacking today. And they're fed up of the refugees also.
Yes, yes. So I think we had a very nice discussion. Europe seems to be the worst affected in this entire. Of course, you can't beat Ukraine. Ukraine has suffered the maximum, followed by Europe, and then followed by Russia. As far as the overall hurt, as far as this Russia-Ukraine war has concerned, but it has also affected the overall global power balance, which will emerge more once a decisive phase comes as far as the Russia-Ukraine war is concerned. I will request the users to please contribute to us. We have our QR code on the screen. Uh, we would like to bring to you more such discussions. Please like and subscribe to our channel. We will now move into a question. First question is from MK. He says, people of Metropole and Mariupol were provided with immediate relief, food, medicine, etc. during the height of the conflict last year. Now, full rebuilding of houses is going on. You already mentioned about this, I think, so we will leave it at that. He's absolutely right. MK, you're absolutely right, and that is possibly going to change the mindset of local people. Any comments from your side?
So just to add on to this, today for medical treatment, still
Mm-hmm.
people prefer to go to Russia.
Okay.
The
Okay.
Ukrainians.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. And
And the good thing about this is that in a Ukrainian living in Russia is not being discriminated against.
okay.
There is
Okay.
no ill feeling in Russia for the Ukrainians who are either living there or have moved there.
Okay.
And whereas how the narrative is in the Ukrainian side against the Russians. So this is
Okay.
a contrast which is there.
Okay. Uh, we have a question from Colonel RP Singh. He says, in G20, President Russia and China are not likely to arrive at Delhi. They are meeting soon. Is it in connection with ongoing Russia-Ukraine war? What is the position course China is will adopt? Yeah,
So a very good question. Uh, why are the Russians not coming in? Why are the Chinese not coming in? And on the contrary, they go and meet elsewhere.
correct.
Uh, this,
It was an
this is
easy place to meet.
Hanji. But it is avoidance. It is trying to say that look, we are not with you. We are there, but we are still not there. And there was initially a talk about India trying to broker a meeting, or maybe giving a podium for meeting between Joe Biden and President Putin.
And Putin.
So, and this is precisely, I think this is avoidance,
Okay.
that I don't want to see your face. मुझे तुम्हारी शक्ल देखनी नहीं है, मैं आता ही नहीं, जो मर्जी कर दो. So this is a kind of an arrogant attitude. Uh, on the contrary, it's avoidance also at the same time. Arrogance, avoidance, bol lo jo bol raha hu. But this is what it is. It's a political, geopolitical signaling that we are not there with you, because you have all 50 odd countries have been kind of supporting the elements against us.
Mm-hmm.
When it comes to China, now China, and when it comes to China, I think it has got everything to do with India.
Mm-hmm.
After having released this map,
Mm-hmm.
you see the timing of release of this map.
Yeah, I think it was
So
that was actually it was series of events.
it's a
Moment the
series of,
BRICS, moment the
yes,
BRICS happened,
yes,
you had kind of a very during the BRICS. It was a very cold meeting for a few
correct.
minutes. It was
That's right.
virtually for a few minutes. Then you had suddenly the map being released, and then you followed it up with "I'm not going to come."
Yeah.
So I think it was all backed up to reach to "I'm not going to come to G20."
So you see
Maybe.
the body language of Xi Jinping
Mm.
in the BRICS meeting. You see his body language.
Yeah.
Now we all do realize that our Prime Minister today is the kind of a favorite amongst in the world, that he's getting a lot of support from all over the world, or recognition. Not support, I would say recognition.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, this is not being digested by China.
Correct.
India's rise is not being digested, and
Yeah.
and every time we have been politically very correct, politically and diplomatically extremely correct.
That's
Whether
right.
it is not inviting Zelensky to BRICS, uh, when it comes to protocol, I think our diplomats, our entire polity, they are playing the cards extremely well, which is not being digested. So, if you compare the popularity part of it, India is much more popular than China in any case. So, obviously, this gentleman would not want to come here where he is not going to be kind of given that importance.
Mm-hmm.
While we as Indians would, we always look up, we are hospitable and we look after, we would have really looked after him. But he does not want to give that kind of a feeling that having come to India, he was received well and things like that. So it
Yeah.
is again,
Yeah, I think you're right. It's more to do with, of course, besides avoidance of India, I think he also felt that meeting Joe Biden in India may not be that good, because they're going to have a bilateral meeting soon in
yes,
the United States of America in San Francisco or California, one of the places where they are going to have a summit level meeting there. So he felt possibly a meeting there would be much more convenient with Biden than India being shown as some kind of a negotiator or go
correct,
between the two.
absolutely,
It would have been something like, accepting a minnow to become the kingmaker, or of that kind of a nature. That, of course, and you must have realized BRICS ke baad, the Global Times comes up with a statement, in fact, an article saying that its BRICS summit is a wake up call for India.
correct.
First, this particular news item came, where it was highlighted what all is to be done. Then the map was released. Then Xi Jinping was not coming. So it was a very planned, systemic three warfare strategy done by China to avoid India, to put India on some kind of a pushback to India. So that is
So,
something which was the main bit.
and,
Russia,
and,
I
and, the,
think, yeah,
and this kind of
Russia.
signaling, sir,
Hmm,
sorry to interrupt, sir, but this kind of signaling, sir,
hmm,
uh, we all have to take it seriously. This is not
yes,
something which is to be taken lightly. Uh,
yes.
I'm sure all those who are watching China more intently are looking into it, because this is something one doesn't do under normal circumstances.
Yeah.
So
And yeah, so and also I think we leave it at that. By and large, as far as Russia is concerned, Russia is also under that threat. Probably it wanted to avoid India getting embarrassed, because of the
that's
International Court of Justice ruling that you have to
absolutely
arrest Putin, and that was the reason why he didn't come to South Africa. Also, he didn't want to embarrass the South African President Ramaphosa, and similarly to India. So we should club all these reasons as one of the
yes.
important facts for these guys avoiding it. I think nothing
And
more than that. Nothing more than that.
and
There is another.
India on its part also may have just conveyed that, it's better you don't come.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So one more question which is there from Jitender. Colonel Jitender, since European nations are feeling the heat, do you think still USA will continue supporting this war?
You see, a good question, but just trying to understand that the United States has got no love lost for Europe.
Correct.
United States is very happy if Europe is feeling the heat, because that is how the dependency of Europe on America is increasing, and on China it is reducing.
Yeah.
China and Russia it is reducing. So as far as the United States is concerned, this entire war, in my opinion, has been provoked because of this. And USA will continue to support the war because they want the war to prolong. And in any case, they don't want to end it before the elections.
Yeah. The last question is we will take hereafter. We will not take any questions because most of it is a complimentary message to you for a very nice discussion which we have had. USA, this is out of the today's discussion uh, scope, but I thought let's take it on because it is relevant to Russia-Ukraine war in some way or the other. USA is putting radars, cruise missiles on islands on Philippines, Japan air bases in Philippines, US, UK Navy patrolling in SCS. Z is doomed. Just a comment. I think it is the
No,
other end of. It is the other end of.
yes, it's on the other end, but we got to take it very seriously, because as far as the United States is concerned, their focus while they're supporting this war, their enemy remains, and their focus remains China.
Yeah.
And they will do anything and everything to make sure that the Indo-Pacific is kind of dominated by them, and that is why all these actions are being taken. Interestingly, just a little input. Uh, Yesterday's input that the new ICBMs, which Russia has kind of deployed, operationalized, that has been done yesterday, and that's going to be again a game changer as far as when Russians are concerned. Now, this particular missile is called Sampat, and it's being termed as the Satan by US.
Correct.
So,
Correct.
you see that the nuclear dimension is being going up a number of notches.
Correct.
So if the Americans are going to deploy it, so the Russians have operationalized something. So this kind of, as you said, Cold War 2.0 has already
It's
started.
begun. It's begun.
Bigger.
It's begun actually.
Yes.
Thank you very much, General Pradeep. I think we had a fantastic discussion. Till we meet again, we will close the discussion today. And thank you to all audience. Please like, subscribe to our channel, contribute to us in your own little ways. We It will give us the support and encouragement. We've got the QR code on up in our screen for you all to encourage us by whatever you can. With that, we end the discussion.